Yeah, know what it is. Deal 47 in here for real. Decided to do another 1995 flashback. I said already, 1995 Australian Rugby League. I did round one. It was the last video. How there was 4 new teams entering the competition, and it was supposed to be exciting times until, of course, the dreaded Super League war took over and split the competition in half. But just before that all unfolded, it was 1995 round 8, and very special achievement by the 4 new teams. 1995 round 8, the first time, and what ended up being the only time in the season, the first time the 4 new teams all won in the same round on the same weekend. Absolutely fantastic, I thought, and it was a particular achievement from North Queensland Cowboys, given the fact that was their very first win of the season. Unfortunately, it was one of only 2 games that they did win in 1995, and they ended up with a spoon. But their victory, their first win ever in their history, to complete the Cronulla, or whatever 4 wins is. Anyway, so first of all, the new team Western Reds had beaten Penrith 18 points to 16 over at the Wacker. So that was one of the new teams winning. Second, Auckland Warriors held on against Sydney City Roosters 26-22 over at their home ground, Mount Smart Stadium. That was 5 tries each, just a bit better goal kicking from the Warriors, getting them the 26-22 win there. South Queensland Crushers had beaten the struggling Parramatta Eels 33-14 at Lang Park. And then Cowboys, with the biggest upset of them all, one of the biggest upsets I've ever seen. Cowboys beating the Illawarra Steelers at Wynn Stadium at Wollongong. At that point in time, Steelers one of the hardest teams to beat at home, and Cowboys pulled it off, beating Steelers 14 points to 10. And in the first half, the Cowboys scored through Adrian Vowles, and in the second half, the other Cowboy player, David Bouvang, he'd got their 2 tries, and that was enough to give them their first ever win, 14 points to 10, over the Illawarra Steelers. So absolutely fantastic. The 4 new teams all winning in the same round. So then, as I said, there was 10 games per round at the time. So then after that, we saw the other 6 games, and since we've done 4 out of the 10, we need to finish it off to them all. We saw Cronulla Sharkies far too good for South Sydney Rabbitohs, 24 points to 0 at the old Sydney Football Stadium. Sharks a team very much on the improve in 1995, as were the Western Suburbs Magpies, who accounted for the Sydney Tigers. Like I said before, Balmain had called themselves Sydney Tigers for 1995. West's far too good for the Sydney Tigers, 30 points to 12 at Campbelltown Stadium. Then an unconvincing performance from Newcastle. They just held on and beat the Gold Coast Seagulls 27 points to 20 up at Seagull Stadium. So a narrow victory against one of the battlers. And then we saw the Sydney Bulldogs up against North Sydney Bears. Remembering, Canterbury Bulldogs called themselves Sydney Bulldogs for 1995. And Norths, finding that their old habits died hard, so far in 1995, Norths had racked up some big scores against the teams down the bottom of the ladder, but they had failed to make any sort of impression against teams up the top of the ladder, against the better teams. And with that said, Bulldogs won 14 points to 12 over North. So not surprising there that North couldn't get the job done against one of the better teams, despite racking up huge scores against lower teams. I said already, North had beaten Gold Coast Seagulls 50 points to 10 in round 1. They'd beaten South 44-10 in round 2. They'd beaten Cowboys 60 points to 6, round 5 or 6, racking up huge scores against the no-good teams, but couldn't pull it off against any of the top teams. A top teams battle, which was mightily exciting. Canberra versus Brisbane down at Canberra Stadium on the Friday night. And I was expecting this to be a cliffhanger, like expecting it to be 1 or 2 points in it, maximum. Canberra with a thumping 26 points to 0 win. So a very uncharacteristic performance by Brisbane Broncos, going down 26-0. And that was an infamous one. It features my personal favourite solo try of them all. That's, of course, the game where Raiders legendary fullback Brett Mullins did a kick and chase, kicked the ball again on the bounce before reaching high to score. The double kick and chase by Brett Mullins. That was in that game to help Canberra to a thumping 26-0 win over Brisbane. Also, Manly then had to play St George at Brookvale, and Manly far too good for St George, winning 24 points to 6. But that wasn't as embarrassing from a St George Dragons perspective. It wasn't as embarrassing as the last time they played. Of course, in 1994, when St George went to Brookvale to play Manly, Manly had demolished them 61-0. So this time, Manly only beating them 24 points to 6. Still a good win for Manly, and nowhere near as embarrassing for St George. So there you go, 1995 round 8, special edition pop-off, handling that business all day in this building for real, just because it's the first time, and ended up being the only time in the 1995 season, that the 4 new teams all won in the same round, just before the dreaded Super League war took over and ruined the game before it finally got repaired and reunited in 1998. Your boy Deal 47.